Hello, this is Adam Carroll with Justice for All, and this show is UN This Week. Justice for All often works on behalf of persecuted minorities, especially persecuted Muslim minorities such as the Rohingya in Burma, the Uyghur in China, and also the Muslim minorities in India and Kashmir. Well, in Kashmir, they're not the minority, but they're occupied. So, speaking of minorities, today we're going to speak about the Muslim minority called the Moro people of the Philippines. And we're very glad to have on the show, all the way from, I guess, Mindanao, somewhere in the Philippines, Amirah Lidasan, Muslim human rights advocate who writes a column, Voice of the Moro Masses, for a Mindanao-based publication called Davao Today. And Amira is also the national chairperson, and please correct my pronunciation. Well, how do you pronounce Suara?
Suara Bangsamoro.
Ah, yes, a mass organization that aims to fight for self-determination, just and lasting peace, and international solidarity against foreign aggression. Speaking of foreign aggression, maybe starting with the history of the Philippines a little bit. Why Philippines? Why is it called Philippines? Who is Philip?
I think like most of the countries in Southeast Asia, and I guess most of the world, we were conquered by the Spanish. I think during the Spanish regime of the Queen, and we were named after the leader of the of Spain, and well, not all of us have accepted it, but because we have been conquered for more than 300 years, that stuck to that became the official name of the island here in Southeast Asia.
And I guess Philip. Yeah, just to say, sorry to interrupt. Philip II of Spain.
Yes.
Was so perhaps some people in Philippines don't want to be called Filipinos for that reason. The Moro people, why are you known as the Moro people?
Yes, it's a political collective name because when the Spanish conquistadores came to the Philippines, and they saw the same people, the same faith, the same religion, and the same attitudes and in Africa, or the Moors in Africa, or the Moors in Spain also. So they called us the Moros, or the people who fought them, who are the Muslims. So collectively, all the tribes that did not become Christians or embrace Christianity during the occupation, collectively we become the Moro people. We have our own and our own political hierarchy. We had the Sultan, the Sultanate, we have the Sultan, the Datus, and the rest of our culture and political leadership, all rest to the Sultanates of Maguindanao and Sultanate of Sulu. So we that collective Moro of the 13 ethnic tribes here in Mindanao, it became it resurged. No, there was a resurgence in the 70s of using when another wave of marginalization and massacres of Muslim people in Mindanao happened, and
Mm,
it became the voice of the resistance, the Moro National Front and the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. And now we've named ourselves the Bangsa Moro, meaning the Moro nation.
mm. So the Moro Nation, you've uh, taken ownership of the name Moro, which originally linked you to maybe European history with the Moors of Spain and elsewhere, which they had expelled, right? They expelled all the Muslims from Spain in 1492. And here they are arriving in Philippines to to conquer. And here the Muslims were again. And so it
Yes.
sounds like there are centuries of resistance and tension, uh, but also demand for justice and respect. And so now, if your sound starts to cut out, which it's echoing a little bit, I was wondering if you could take yourself off camera now, and we'll put up the other photo, and hopefully that will work, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Um, um, so, yeah, I wanted to ask a little further about the culture, the local culture of the Moros. I understand the society is somewhat tribal, and also what part of the Philippines do the Moro people mainly live in?
Yeah, we live in Mindanao, currently now in our hometown province in Maguindanao. And belong to a mainland, no? You see the map of the Philippines, it's in the south side, and center of the Mindanao island is the heart. The Mindanao island is Maguindanao and Lanao del Sur. We also have the island provinces that's very near, or it's westward, very near Malaysia. That's Sulu, Tawi-Tawi, and Basilan. So these are the provinces. No, it's not a one land mass, but because of our ancestors and the way the sultanate, no, was formed, um, it 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 it's not a we belong to the coastal areas and the mountainous here in Mindanao. So 13 tribes. I belong to the Iranon tribe, and the biggest tribe, I guess, is the Maguindanaoan and Ranao and the Tausug tribe. Tausug are the ones living in the island provinces very near Malaysia, and there are some in the island of Wanire, Sabah. Oh, oh, we also have relatives and tribes living there in Sabah, Malaysia. And that's the peopling of the Moro people. But there are also other Moro people in small communities outside of the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. The, that's the 5 provinces that I mentioned. Within other provinces also, like in Davao, in Sarangani, and all over Mindanao, there are um, sub tribes or ethno-linguistic tribes that also there, you know, and have been living there since the before the Spanish colonials came. So that's how we've been all over Mindanao in uh, not only in the Bangsamoro areas.
And so, if someone from your tribe or community goes to Manila, for example, would you find yourself fully accepted? Would you find yourself in some ways marginalized? Is it at all like being a minority in other countries in the United States, where there's some, lasting prejudice? Or are you invisible and free to go about your business?
Well, when I was little and we had to go to Manila, it was really difficult because there are only few communities, that has been built in Manila, and it was in the time of 80s, where there's still an ongoing conflict in Mindanao. So people see us as their enemies, no? So it's really difficult, marginalizing that people do not know your religion, your culture, because the way you dress, because of the way you associate with them. So it's really difficult for them to accept, no? And but fortunately, in Mindanao, because there are some many interfaith communications and interfaith organizations and endeavors that had been done for a very long time, no, since the resurgence of the Moro resistance in the 70s until the 80s. So the church, no, specifically the uh, Protestant churches and the Catholic churches help, no, somehow help in sort of giving explaining, to people about the Muslim peoples, the Moro peoples, no. So it helped that inside schools, there are others who do not know you, but some people or some religious organizations have helped, to introduce uh, the Moro people, the Muslim people, and the Moro resurgence. But it's often difficult when there's a leader, a president who uses the issue of Muslims and Christians, the historical injustice, the fights, dating back to the Spanish colonialism. When they use that, it's really difficult uh, the voice. No, if it's being used by the president, they use it to wage war against the Moro people, and they twist, no, they uh, conduct propaganda. They twist, no, the religion. They twist the resurgence. They twist the resistance, and it becomes a Muslim Christian war, and it affects majority of the population, specifically in Manila. So that's where our struggle, no, begins, and reaching out to Christian community to help us is a very really needed, especially in Metro Manila, because that's where the political center is and the policies are being made.
Mm, that's so important. I know that interfaith solidarity is important here after a hate crime or to oppose policies like the Muslim ban, of people coming in as well, visas and so forth. So solidarity, to build solidarity, takes a lot of work, and it's very good to hear there are groups there that are engaging with your community. As far as the president, yes, President Duterte is known for his divisive remarks and policies and very harsh tactics. I heard in the news this morning that he's reinstating or wants to reinstate the death penalty. which isn't simply the death penalty in his hands, because you see how he's conducted, for example, the war on drugs, but by bringing or stepping up extrajudicial killing of thousands and thousands of people. And so it's extremely harsh, and he's got his police out there killing people. And so I'm concerned that this death penalty will also be exerted harshly and unfairly and in a divisive way, socially divisive way. Has President Duterte tried to do anything positive towards your community?
Well, at first, President Duterte is when he ran for office, he used his links with the Mindanaoan people. He has blood of a Maranao. He has blood, a family or relatives from communities. So, because the people really fell in love with him, and the president who in an international community, now the pro-Moro people, historical injustice killing of many Moro people, the American occupation, and those are the things that he threw at U.S. President Barack Obama in one of the meetings, and then he said that he will divorce the U.S. politically and economically because of the sins, of U.S. to the Muslim people, specifically to the Moro people. And so here from a president, it's very new to us. This is first president that comes from Mindanao, and we sympathizes with the struggle of the Moro people. It's because he knows the Moro people because he is from Mindanao, and that's the reason why we are um, we sort of to embrace this new president. But we also saw the really bad side of the president when he said that he's going to be very tough against extremists. And when he said that, he did not just particularly say he's going to attack extremist group, because when the siege in Marawi, the siege of the self-identified ISIS groups in Marawi, happened in May 23, 2017. What he did was really attack the whole Muslim community. He was not just after the ISIS, but the whole community of Marawi sort of paid for that siege. It was a 5-month attack in Marawi City, military airstrike, and combined with the ground attack, and it really did the Marawi City, the Muslim community.
Well, this military attacks, and it made the news here in the U.S. But if you're not in the diaspora from the Philippines, it probably didn't make much impact, and it just barely registered. So it's unfortunate that a lot of us don't know much about all of this, not just history, but this struggle, and that our solidarity with you hasn't developed. I believe that in some other parts of the Muslim world, there is more awareness and more solidarity. In a few minutes, I'll bring on my associate and our technical producer, Wahid Mir, to ask you a few questions from his point of view, his knowledge as a Bangladeshi American. But I have to say that I'm embarrassed that we don't know much about this. And what do you suggest for us in order to raise awareness? And also, are there any U.S. policies that you'd like to see? Oh, maybe have we lost your audio? Well, we're going to do a station break for a moment, and we will be right back. This is Adam Carroll at Justice for All.
We are Justice for All. Headquartered in the heart of downtown Chicago, Justice for All is a global humanitarian initiative dedicated to raising awareness for human rights concerns impacting vulnerable minority groups. We promote policies that protect religious freedom, address the root causes of mass displacement, and recognize the plight of refugees and forced migrants. Our diverse team of staff and volunteers, led by Imam Malik Mujahid, work tirelessly to help Justice for All achieve their goals. Past campaigns covered a wide range of humanitarian concerns. Through Bosnia Task Force, imams and leaders of Chicago's Muslim community worked to ensure Bosnia became a top national issue. This led to life-saving American policies in Bosnia. A key accomplishment was helping to get rape declared a war crime. Initiatives also included Kosovo Task Force, Central African Republic Task Force, and Flint Coalition, which brought awareness to the water crisis affecting the people of Flint, Michigan. Highlights of our work include supporting Black Lives Matter, Parliament of the World Religions, addressing climate change.
So wasteful consumption starts the ruthless production, and that's where we need all the fossil fuel in the world.
And prominent media exposure.
This is Imam Malik Mujahid, President of Justice for All.
And I'm the Director of Outreach for Justice for All.
And that's why we need to go back to what worked.
Today we're demanding an apology from the CEO of Costco.
The Chinese crackdown on Uyghurs and other Turkic people has only gotten worse.
Current programs such as Burma Task Force advocate for the rights of Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh, internally displaced populations, and all those denied freedom of movement and at risk of starvation. Through this, we mobilized thousands of calls to elected representatives. This paved the way for the U.S. to increase funding for Rohingya refugees from $30 million to over $600 million. 2 of our documentaries were featured on international news outlets. The Rohingya People, a slow-burning genocide, on BBC World News, and Rohingya Refugees Tel Aviv Massacre was featured on CNN. We've organized rallies, UN mission visits, expanded presentations on campuses, promoted research and report writing, outreach to think tanks, media, and other influencers. Faith Coalition educates about the Rohingya genocide and crimes against humanity faced by ethnic groups in Burma. We've traveled to refugee camps, convened a meeting of Karen, Kachin, and Rohingya leaders, both to encourage cooperation and to guide them in congressional outreach. We organized Rohingya Advocacy Day. This led to over 100 participants visiting the offices of 60 U.S. senators and congressional representatives. Free Kashmir advocates for the people of Kashmir. Long-term goals include the call for self-determination, the end of the Indian military's occupation of the territory, and raising awareness of Kashmiri issues among the American people. After the August 5th reinvasion of Kashmir, we organized national protests in front of various Indian government buildings, partnered with Stand with Kashmir, and launched a petition condemning the Gates Foundation's decision to present Prime Minister Modi a humanitarian award. Save Uyghur informs Muslims and neighbors of other faiths about the ongoing cultural genocide of Uyghur Muslims and mobilizes public support. Our projects include boycotting Chinese products with our Fast from China campaign, pushing Bill S-178 in the Senate, and organizing a nationwide protest of Costco. Together, we can continue to stand up for justice. Justice for all.
We've been speaking with our guest, Amirah Lidasan, all the way from Mindanao area. We were having some difficulty with the visuals and the audio now. Amira, are you there? Possibly we've lost her. This does remind me of the old days when it was hard to get through to people, and now everything is so interconnected. It's almost refreshing, but it's also frustrating. And maybe it reflects the relative isolation of her community. We understand that her electricity is out. We're getting a text message that they're having a brownout, which must mean reduced electrical. And I think around the world, a lot of our viewers can relate to that. So we're going to see if she can reconnect with us. So please stay tuned for a little bit. I'm not an expert on the Moro people, and despite the echo, I hope that viewers were able to get some knowledge about their struggle for justice, inclusion, and above all, perhaps self-determination. I don't know the economy of Mindanao or their areas, their traditional areas, and so there's a lot more to be learned about what can help them not just survive but prosper. It was very interesting, I thought, to hear that President Duterte is actually from Mindanao, and so that he knows them, and that there was a hope when he came into office that he would actually be open. But then following that, he went on one of those familiar anti-extremist campaigns. And of course, he got to define what extremist meant. Separatism, understandably, is not in his interest, but his response was extremely violent, and autonomy should not be a threat to a healthy government or society. Coexistence of diverse people, as you have in the Philippines, should be something that we as Americans embrace. And I was just about to ask about US policies to see if they do support the right for self-determination of the Moro and other minorities. Often, of course, our US policies line up with economic interests. And no doubt we have some interesting economic interests in the Philippines. We did have a recent show with Drew, a colleague who recommended Amira, and that discussed a bit more detail about US-Philippine relations and gave a pretty good context of our kind of colonial history. So let us just give another moment for Amira to come back. But if not, we can always try again when there's less echo and less electrical outages. If people watching this are inspired, there's the magic of Google. You can find out more about the Moro people, or Suara Bangsa Moro, which you can find on Facebook. This is the group that our guest Amira is helping to lead as national chairperson. I'll just say a little more about her. She serves as the Secretary General of the Moro Christian People's Alliance and council member of the Sandugo Alliance of Moro and Indigenous People for Right to Self-Determination. She is also part of National Council of Makabayang Coalition, Mama Mayang Filipino, and the International League of People Struggles, Philippine chapter. A victim of the all-out war against the Moro people of Mindanao, she helped form human rights organizations that focus on the national minorities in the Philippines. She helped convene the Kalinaw Mindanao, which means peace in Mindanao, the Suara Bangsa Moro party list organization, which means voice of Moro people, and many other groups, including the Alliance Against Impunity in Mindanao. Important human rights work. So let's see if she is back with us yet. Let's get my colleague on the line for just a few minutes in that case. If you could join me, Brother Wahid Mir, just to briefly speak. Welcome to the show, which you're always part of, and wouldn't exist without you. Oh, we lost your image. We're losing your image.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This.
So I just wanted to ask you, because we may not be able to finish with our guest, if you could, preferably with your smiling face, just tell us a bit about what Bangladeshis know and think about this issue.
Yes, that was a very fascinating story from many years. I can recall when I was a kid in early 90s. We have many of the times seen rallies and protests been happening because Philippine government was torturing the Moro Muslims, and they are literally killing them, trying to wipe them out from their homeland. Moro land is actually from thousands of years. Moros been there, and many of them converted when Islam was spreading all over the world since then. So it's a 1,000-year-old history and heritage they carry. But very sadly, we have seen that Philippine government, by the help of many international agencies who try to influence Christianity over there, over Moro Muslims, and they also try to stop Moro indigenous language and schools teachings. They've been killing teachers, killing their scholars, abducting them, their leaders, and they try to make it a Christian land. So that was apart from the religious perspective. Culturally, Moro heritage is very rich. They have their own language, and they have their own food culture and habitat. But that also been destroyed by this Filipino government, mostly Christian. So that was the religious conflict in the first place, and it's still continuing. But now political part also coming in play. They are now occupying their lands and actually sending people who are not Moro to those Moro lands and trying to settle them there. Something like happening in West Bank, in Gaza, and this kind of, or even in Kashmir now by the Indians. So that's the sad part. So all over the world, including Muslim majority Bangladeshis, are also in support with Moro people, indigenous people, Moro Muslims, and they're trying to raise the awareness, because we cannot just directly send any help to them, but we can raise awareness throughout the globe so that these people can be saved and they can live with their language and culture. They can raise their family safely and not to be worried about get killed if we go outside.
Well, has the international community or the Muslim community been able to assist in any way or show support?
No, not at all. Actually, I've been tracking these few of those informations and what's going on for a few years now, especially in East Asian part of the world. I'm seeing that Moros are not getting any help from anywhere in the world, because for two reasons. One, Philippines, land of islands, and accessing those islands are not easy for outside world. Who really eager to go there can visit them, but it's not easily accessible. And second thing is their information is always hijacked. I mean, no information coming out from Manila about them. So the problem is all international agencies working based in Manila, and that's the reason Moros and some other indigenous people, of course, getting no attention. And many of the times in East Asian part, government censors what kind of information going in and out. So even getting international information for these Moros is very impossible, and sending out their voice to the outside world is almost impossible.
Well, that's helpful, Brother Wahid. I see Amira is back on the screen, perhaps. Oh.
Yeah, having difficult time.
And as you said, there's a lot of inaccessibility of this people from us, or rather, we're inaccessible to them. But I hope that more support, more practical support, will be possible. And I think, though I see that Amira was trying to rejoin, we should probably end the conversation and perhaps try again at some point, and maybe revisit what the U.S. government can do as well as what we can do. We don't know if there will be a new government, U.S. government, starting in next year. We don't know. I don't know what the different parties have done or said on the situation of the Moro people, if there are any champions or not here. But we have power, and let's use it for good, and let's see what can be done. But unfortunately, I don't know what can be done about the technical side. So, Wahid, did you want to have a few last words? I think we should end.
Sure.
And then we'll, hope
the
for a better.
most important part is empowering those people who are in dire need to survive. Mm-hmm. This is the question of not only keeping the culture alive, it's the question of survival right now. We as Americans don't have enough knowledge many of the times, I should say, that what's going on many parts of the world. And of course, we are not liable for everything, but as a human being, it's our responsibility to help as much as we can. As we are helping our friends and family, it's our responsibility to help those who are in need. And America is the only country in the world who have voice over anyone So I think such Amira joined, but the thing is, we should start a movement to help them. We should empower. You are in UN representing Justice for All, and I think you should take you can take an initiative to get some people, make a coalition with those people in Moro land. And
yes, we can join. So, Sister Amira, are you with us? I hope you can speak. Too bad. If you do hear us, feel free to speak out and interrupt. But we are finishing up. I did just post something to do an announcement, Brother Wahid. We will try to look for coalitions and opportunities to build and strengthen solidarity on this issue. Speaking of other minorities, and not all minorities that are persecuted are Muslim, and we should be thinking about all persecuted people. But the third anniversary of the mass displacement of the Rohingya minority from Rakhine State, Burma, is coming. And so this is a reminder that this Saturday, August 22nd, there is a rally. And if you go to this website, Justice for All, we'll share the link. You can register, and we will make sure you get a Zoom link for this virtual rally with many different speakers showing solidarity. Again, that is what's needed. We have people from all different communities coming together to speak in support of Rohingya, as well as Rohingya leaders speaking. So if we could have that link up rather than the image, that would be great. So visit the link, justiceforall.org/stopgenocidерally. And that would be great to have you there. Thank you, Brother Wahid Mir, and thank you for your intervention on the issue, which you do know about. Amira, apologies, but we're going to end. We'll revisit this and perhaps discuss some concrete steps that could be taken to build solidarity with other groups struggling for justice. So this is Adam from Justice for All. Thank you all. Till next time.